Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in from across the continent and beyond for our first broadcast of the year at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. Last year, we did over 400 programs featuring the coolest scientists and explorers on planet Earth. All of those are on our YouTube channel. There's so much to explore and discover on any topic imaginable. And we wanted to ring in the new year in style with the coolest, literally, and best broadcast we could possibly bring to you. And so, in December, Abbey Dias, who had joined us before for 2 amazing dive programs, reached out and said that she was this incredible opportunity to go down to the frozen continent, Antarctica, to go on an epic diving expedition on a lake in the middle of their dry valleys. And Jesse, could we bring on and do a broadcast together? Well, you don't get invitations like that every day. And so I'm so excited in just a second to bring in Abby to blow your mind with some of the best footage and best connection we've ever had from Antarctica in our history. Before I do, I want to note between our talk and our Q&A, there's going to be a little Kahoot. So if you want to play along with a little 4-question quiz, you can pull up that game pin to do just that. And we know that you're curious. We know that you're excited. So if you have extra questions you do not get answered today, email them to me at exploringbytheseatofyourpants. I'll get them to Abby, and we are going to answer everything that you are keen on about Antarctica. But without further ado, with the single best backdrop in the history of our 4,000 broadcast history, Abby, welcome to the show live in Antarctica. How are you?
I am so great. I'm standing outside right now.
It's the coolest place of all time. Can you tell us where you are in the continent and how long you've been there? Because this is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, I'm at Lake Fryxell in Antarctica. And this is the frozen lake behind me. It's got ice cover over it, but you can see the moat has melted out ever so slightly. And this is Canada Glacier right here.
So, Abby, as a Canadian, I'm really proud that you're by the Canada Glacier, and I'll make sure to pass along Lake Fryxell to all our audience on YouTube and StreamYard so they can find it on a map. Now, we are going to come back to this incredible view, lots with you over the next half hour, but if you want to dive in and show us a little bit about why you're down there, what you're discovering, I know you've got a cool presentation for us as well, so feel free to literally and figuratively dive in.
Sounds good. Just want to let everyone know there's a little bit of a delay here. So there might be pauses between Jesse and I's conversation, but I think it's working pretty good. So that's great. It's also really bright outside, and this never changes. It's 8 o'clock in the morning here in Antarctica, but I'm actually almost a whole day ahead of all of you. So it is January 9th today for me, and I think for most of you, it's January 8th. And it's summertime in Antarctica, so it is sunny all day, 24/7, all the time. So it always looks like this pretty much. And here we go.
I will say that daylight thing might appear in the Kahoot for our students, so stay tuned with that knowledge. But yeah, Abby, bring it up and we'll go in from there. I'm so excited for you to get to learn about this because, again, diving in Antarctica, I've got to say, of all the jobs we've ever featured, that is up there on the coolest gigs you can have on planet Earth. Let's see. It looks like we are good to go. Abby, take us away.
All right. Thanks, Jesse. I think it's a pretty cool job, too. So I'm really excited to tell you about it. This is my second time deploying to Antarctica. My first was about 2 years ago. So I'm just really thrilled to be here again. So today we're going to talk about what it's like to live in Antarctica and also work in Antarctica at this Lake Fryxell. So here we go. That's me in my dive hole. I'm Abby. I work for the University of California, Davis in California. And my job is assistant diving and boating safety officer. But I did not get to that job overnight. I did not get to dive in Antarctica overnight. It took a lot of work and a lot of dedication and goal setting to get there. So here's me when I was really young. I always was interested in the ocean and marine science. And so I carried that passion with me throughout my career. I tried many things like working at restaurants and thought maybe I wanted to become a doctor. But then I decided to pursue lots of scuba training because it seemed really awesome. So I'm a professional scuba diver. That's my title basically, and that means I get to do science underwater. It means I'm also a scuba instructor. I'm also an underwater photographer, so a lot of these photos that you'll see I took underwater with the camera that kind of looks similar to the one below here in this photo. So why am I in Antarctica right here, right now? Antarctica is an amazing continent, and not only is it like a total bucket list item to be able to get here, it's also the continent of science. And so this is really cool because Antarctica, it's all pretty much covered with ice, and it doesn't belong to anyone specifically. And so there's this thing called the Antarctic Treaty, which was signed by about 57 nations, and they've all agreed to reserve Antarctica for scientific research. So science is a huge priority down here in Antarctica, and it's a great place for us to study the life here. It's also really unique. Like I said, it's 24/7 of sunlight out here in the summer, which is opposite of the northern hemisphere winter. And then in the winter, it's 24/7 darkness. So that requires a lot of really interesting adaptations for the life that lives here. And also, it's really cold. So Antarctica has a lot of harsh conditions, and it doesn't look too bad out here today. Again, that's because it's summer here. So it's about, I would say, 30 degrees Fahrenheit probably. So might be even warmer than some of the places you're at right now. I know we got some friends in New York. I don't know how cold it is there, but yeah, it's not too bad out here. And one thing I do want to clarify is that there are no polar bears in Antarctica, but we do have penguins, and I've got to see some. They're pretty cute. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how I now got to Antarctica. First, I took a plane from San Francisco, which is where I'm based at, down to New Zealand. That was about a 13-hour plane ride across the ocean. And then I took another plane from New Zealand to Antarctica. And McMurdo Station is what we call the U.S. Antarctic Program's base there. And it looks, I'll show you in a second. But first, that plane ride was crazy. So that's a huge plane right there. It's the New Zealand Air Force plane. And when you get in the plane, it's super duper crammed. So you can see all those people, they're sitting face to face. If you've ever been on a plane before, your experience has probably not been like this. And that was a first for me. It's dark, it's loud, and you don't always know where you're going. If weather's bad, you might have to turn around. But if you're lucky, you'll make it to the continent in about 7 hours from New Zealand. And that's McMurdo Station. So it's basically like a little town. We've got coffee shops there. We've got a main eating hall where we get our food. We've got dorms that we sleep in. There's a gym. There's even a dodgeball gym and lots of other science facilities. So that's McMurdo Station, where I stayed for a couple of days and did a couple of field trainings to make sure that I was ready and prepared to go out in the field. Specifically, we got trained on how to work with helicopters. And that's because we then took a helicopter out to the dry valleys. So I don't know if any of you have ever flown on a helicopter or seen helicopters in flight, but it's pretty remarkable to be able to fly on one. So I was sitting in the front seat of that helicopter flying over the sea ice in order to get to this beautiful location, which is Lake Fryxell. And that's what you see behind me. But I think it's really interesting. When you look at this picture, I bet that's not what you expected Antarctica to look like, right? It's pretty brown. There's some snow, but it looks pretty dry. And that's true because this area is called the Dry Valleys. It's the driest area in Antarctica. And so there's mountains and glaciers, but lots and lots of dirt. They actually test Mars rovers in this area because the Earth is so dry here. It kind of acts like other planets. But this lake is really important because water supports life. And so in an area that is super duper dry, the lake is what hosts a lot of what lives in the dry valleys. And that's what I'm studying. So our scientific goal here, myself and the team that I'm working with, is to broadly understand how the microbial life persists in the harsh environment and how it responds to changes. And so what is microbial life? Microbial life is anything that you can see with a microscope. And so what we see out here includes nematodes, like little teeny tiny worms, as well as tardigrades. Tardigrades are also called water bears. They're super cool. If you've never heard of a tardigrade before, you should definitely look them up at a later time. They can preserve themselves in these little balls and freeze for like a really, really long time. I think they've sent tardigrades to space. And they're so tiny. So that tardigrade, that little creepy crawly thing, is about 50 microns, and that's like the length of the tip of a human hair. So small, you need a microscope to be able to see it. But there is life here, and that's the life that I'm talking about. Here's a video of a tardigrade too. We recently collected this. My friend Marisol on my team, she took this video of a tardigrade walking around in some of the microbes that we see in the water. Super cool. Okay, so life is harsh in Antarctica. Lots of animals do live here. They're microscopic, and also humans have adapted to be able to survive here. Nobody lives in Antarctica, but permanently. But this is how we live here during our field season when we're out doing research. So we live in these tents. Yes, I am sleeping in a tent in Antarctica. Yes, it's cold. Yes, it's 24 hours of sunlight. It's pretty crazy. But it's not too bad. Sometimes they heat up in the sun. Sometimes it frosts and it's cold. But then we also have this main hut that we get to live and work in and eat. So this is what the main hut looks like. I'm actually standing just outside of it right now. These are some of my friends sharing a dinner in our main hut. It's some pretty close quarters, but it's really fun. You become really close with all of your teammates. Speaking of food, this is what a lot of our food looks like in Antarctica. So in order to be an Antarctic scientist, you have to be enthusiastic about eating dry and frozen food. And I know that doesn't look super interesting, but we've got some great support people out here that cook some really good meals. So I just wanted to ask, let's see. Oh no, I got one thing to show you first. So that was the ins of Antarctica, and this is the outs of Antarctica. So, okay, we eat frozen and dry food. That's crazy. But going to the bathroom in Antarctica is actually also really crazy. And this was one of the most bizarre things that I experienced my first time here. We have 2 toilets in our bathroom. The first one is for number 1 liquids, and the second one is for number 2 solids. We have to separate these and then we ship them out off continent because we're not allowed to create any waste in Antarctica. I would say my favorite thing about these toilets is that they have a foam toilet seat. So you see that pink rim that's around it? That keeps it nice so that when it's cold in the morning and you wake up and you go to the bathroom, it's not freezing on your tush. So that was a great idea. Going to the bathroom is always interesting. So my question, Jesse, I don't know if you're able to pop in. My question for you is, what is something that you want to bring on expedition to Antarctica? Because the food's great, but I brought chocolate because we don't have a lot of chocolate here. So that was like a total necessity for me.
So, Abby, I'll leave it to our classes too. If you guys want to chime in the chat, please do let us know what you'd like to bring to Antarctica. But you actually covered what I was going to say, Abby, and that is Ferrero Rochers. So every explorer that goes to Antarctica, the Arctic, or on an ocean research vessel, when you're in the most remote places in the world, everybody takes chocolate. It's like the one universal, and I love it. Miss Coburn shared music. That's really good. Podcast. A lot of the Antarctic explorers have taken that before for songs of all kinds. They bring their great playlist. What do we think? Mr. White's class, you guys can chime in too. Phone to take pictures. Mr. Hugh Miller's class, yes. So we want to make sure we're capturing what we're exploring. Awesome options, guys. Bronxville, please do share. Anyone, Wi-Fi connection, coffee. Molly's on my wavelength here. A case of apples. Miss Quirks got that. So we've got fruit. We've got anything but fruit. We've got music. We've got entertainment and food are our big options. Fantastic, Abby.
That sounds about right. I've also heard fuzzy socks and pillows and warm things are also a favorite. And yeah, fruit is, we don't get a lot of fruit here. I will tell you, we had one apple that's been sitting in the kitchen and we've had it for like 4 weeks and we just broke into it today before the talk just to give me a little extra energy and excitement to talk to you all. So we finished our last apple. That's okay. Anyways. All right, so going to work in Antarctica, that's life in Antarctica, but this is the office. This is where we do all of our work. So you can actually see that little hut right out there on the lake ice. That little blue blob, that is this dive hut. And right outside of it is a dive hole into the lake. So this is what I call the office. Here's a video of us breaking through. We have to crack that ice every morning before we get into the water. I don't know if you can hear it, but it was like really nice and crunchy. It's pretty satisfying to crack that ice. And the ice hole, the depth of the ice is about 15 feet. So before I get down to what I'm studying, I have to go through an ice hole of 15 feet, which is probably taller than the floor to your ceiling in your classroom. It's like a long tube. And it does fill with water because the lake water evens out and fills up the hole, but that's how far we had to drill down to get into the lake. And here's what I wear when I'm going into the lake. So I'm a scientific diver working here to support the research with my diving skills. So we got a lot of equipment because the lake temperature is about 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is just about freezing temperature. So that's why there's frozen ice on top, but liquid water underneath. So I've got a super thick hood to keep my head warm. I've got a dry suit, which keeps my body totally warm. It's got seals on the wrists and the neck and then enclosed feet, so I don't get any water in there. Underneath it, I get to wear undergarments, and they're basically like pajamas. So I get to work in my pajamas. It's pretty awesome. They're super warm. I also have dry gloves, those blue gloves. They also keep my hands warm, so I don't get water on my hands, but there's actually air in there, and I get to wear just like normal gloves underneath. I've got a weight belt to help balance me out underwater so that I can sink down. I've got a pony bottle, which is what we call like a teeny tiny little scuba tank on the back, and that's for safety. Because I'm going to tell you about how we breathe air underwater, which is different than normal scuba. I've also got a computer, a dive knife, and then we always have backup safety diver equipment on shore, just in case we need someone to come in after us for help, because this is a very different diving than I do back home. So here we go. Here's me in the hole. I'm wearing my helmet or hat, what we call it. This is a full face mask type system. So unlike my other scuba mask that I wear, this is totally enclosed. And so I need help putting this on because it's a big piece of equipment. And you'll see this big long tube coming out of the helmet. And that's 3 tubes combined together. And so their purpose are air, sending air down to me so that I could breathe underwater. Also communication. So the really nice thing about wearing a full face mask underwater is that I can talk to the people up on the surface. And that's why we're able to do this kind of science here, is because I can just chit chat from the bottom of the lake to the people that are up on top in real time, just like I'm doing with you. And then also the line, or the umbilical we call it, helps you find your way back to the hole, because we have only drilled 1 hole in this lake, and you must come out the same exact way you came in. So you better be attached to a line to make sure you can find that hole again. Okay, and here's what it looks like diving under the water. So you get your helmet on, you're all ready, you do a comms check, you check your air, and here we go. Is it going to start for us?
It wants to start. I believe in it.
There we go. That is right under this lake out here. It kind of looks creepy and weird, and I don't even know it. It's hard to describe those things, right? Those are the microbial life forms that we're studying. So all those mat type structure, weird looking things, that's what's growing in the lake. That is swimming along. You can see there's quite a bit of light that penetrates through the ice, although it is still pretty dark down there. So sometimes we have to carry lights, and there's lots of little floaty things in the water. But the really cool thing about this lake and why we're able to study the life that lives in it is because it's undisturbed, pretty much. So unlike the ocean, where you have lots of currents and waves and predators and things moving around in the ocean, this lake is pretty stagnant compared to the ocean. And so it's got this ice cover that protects it from the surface. And then there's no predators that live in it. There's no fish. There's no sea monsters that I've found yet. And so the biggest thing really in the lake is myself and these microbes that are down there. And so they're able to form these really cool structures because they're not getting disturbed like they would be anywhere else on the earth. So here's another photo from the lake. And I have a question for you, which is, what would you call this? How would you describe this? If you had to think like a diver underwater and see this structure and try and communicate it back to the people on the surface, what would you even say? And for reference, the 2 red dots, that's the scale bar, that's about 10 centimeters. So I don't know if you want to write in the chat or have any ideas of what you would call this structure.
So our first answer that we got in from Miss Coburn was that it looks like an underwater city, which is fantastic. I love it. Very slimy city is where my mind goes. But if anyone else wants to chime in the chat, please do. It's sort of, I must say, I think we can all agree, it kind of looks like snot. So I don't know what's going on in the bottom of the lake, but it's certainly odd looking stuff. We've got ghost towers from Miss Court, a lost city, slimy, gooey. You guys are big on the lost city kick. That's what we should call this program next time, Abby, is the lost cities of Lake Fryxell in Antarctica. Great options, everybody.
I love it. Yes, I love the word slimy. I love the word snot. All those things are really, really good descriptors. And so it's important in my role to be able to describe exactly what I'm seeing, because some of the people on top, some of them are divers and others of them are not. And so they've never had the chance to be able to see these things in real life. So they basically rely on my photos such as this and my descriptions to understand what's down here. And so I believe I called this structure slimy fingers on a rock was my exact scientific definition of what this picture was illustrating. So let's try another one. How about this? This is also in the lake, same location, just a totally different formation of microbes. So just a reminder, our goal here is looking at why do these microbes survive in this lake and what kinds of structures and things do they form and why? So any ideas here on how you would describe this structure?
So I've got to say,
it's a lot smaller
Abby,
than the last.
I'm a biologist by background, and even with the weird and wonderful animals I've studied in my life, this is really peculiar stuff. So my favorite answer for the last one was fluffy alien castles, which came in just after you went back live. To me, this looks like a weird aquatic beehive. We've got capsule hotel. We've got honeycomb beehive, pancakes in a microscope. Very nice, unexpected, Miss Coburn. Great option difference. A lot of bee stuff. Honeycombish, yeah.
That is awesome. You all are on the right page. We do call this honeycomb. We call this exact structure, hey, I'm heading to the honeycomb zone. And that is our exact scientific description of this. So you got it. You all could totally be scientific divers with some training and do this kind of work. That's exactly how we describe things. So beautiful honeycomb here. I think I've got another one for you. How about this one? Again, same lake, same location, a little bit different depth, but what do you think of this? How would you call this structure?
So I'm going to say, too, my other favorite answer for the last one just came in after we went back, which is cheese gone wrong. So thank you for that in my day. This, to me, while people are putting them out, looks like an uppity slug. Like if there was a giant lake slug that was consuming the alien towers. That's where my mind goes, but I'm a dork. We've got Shrek's house. Way to go. Venus flytrap, shark straw. You guys rock. This is setting the stage for the year just beautifully. Thank you, everybody. I don't know if Shrek's house is going to be beaten, so I'll leave you with that, Abby.
I love it. You guys are actually inspiring me to maybe up my description game because that's awesome. So you might be disappointed then to know that we just call these things domes. But I'm really liking Shrek's house, and I'm really liking all of those other slug eating monster ideas. We also do joke that they totally look like microbial map monsters, especially when I have the little laser eyes on them. They come alive. So this is a dome structure, and what it's doing is actually lifting off from the bottom of the lake. And so these microbes, they're really interesting organisms, because before we had dinosaurs, before we had plants, before we had humans or penguins or anything on this earth, we had microbes. And so that's another really important reason why we're here and why we're studying this life here, is because they're super, super ancient, even though they're alive right now. So they're very similar to the life that started life on Earth. And so these microbes, a lot of them are photosynthesizing. So that's similar to what plants do, is they turn carbon dioxide and sunlight into oxygen. And so when they do that, they form these bubbles. And because the lake is covered with a layer of ice, it allows for the bubbles to form and stay in bubble form. And so we could break that down a bit later, but it's unlike other conditions where you have an open container, the bubbles can just come out. It's kind of like a soda can, you know, when you open the soda can, it fizzes and all the bubbles come out. In this lake, it's like a closed soda can. So there's dissolved little bubbles in here, and then sometimes they precipitate out into these bubbles. And those bubbles are what lift the mats up off the floor, and then they can float up onto the ice, and it's this whole cycle. So we're interested in why do they form the structures, and why do they sometimes lift off from the bottom, and why do they sometimes not? So that's a little glimpse into the lake science that we're doing right there. And here's a video of myself taking samples underwater. And so I put a little GoPro down facing myself so that I could have this video for you. And there are basically three main things that I do underwater. One is describe what kind of life I'm seeing, just like what we did right there, back and forth. The other one is take the photos that I showed you. And the third thing is take samples for the scientist back up at the top so they can actually look at what I'm describing and then make observations from them. So here's a little clip. You might be able to hear me talking underwater with that helmet on. So if you listen closely, you might be able to hear it.
Good copy.
Okay. I'm going to start with Zulu 1. Zulu 1 is going to be the liftoff. Zulu 1 complete.
Okay, so if you could hear that, you might have caught I said starting with Zulu 1, Zulu 1 is going to be the liftoff. And so Zulu 1 is the name of the sampling container that I chose to put that sample in. And the liftoff is that little teeny tiny chunk of mat that you see. And that's like the last picture where we had it elevated up off of the bottom. So that's what I was sampling, and that's what I brought back up to the surface. And so I want to show you a photo of what it looks like to bring these samples back up to the surface. It can look something like this. You were really good at describing what things look like, and so you probably won't be surprised to find that we call this lasagna. It totally looks like lasagna, right? Kind of lasagna that's upright, has lots of layers, and then when you lay it down on its side, this is probably what lasagna would look like. And that's what the mat sample looks like too. And so you can see a lot of different layers in the mat going from the bottom all the way to the top. And we can use this to count growth years on it, kind of like the rings on a tree stump. So this has lots of different lamina. I can't even count them here. I think there's probably like 10 or 20 of them, and that's 10 or 20 years or seasons of growth of this microbial mat in the lake. So super valuable. Teeny tiny samples can tell us a whole lot about the life that we're seeing down there. Also different colors and so many things to notice and pick apart. So we have little lab spaces here. I don't know if you can see them behind me in these little huts right there. That's our lab. This is my friend Marisol. She's looking under a microscope because, again, all of this life is microscopic. So they're these teeny tiny organisms that then form these large structures. So we break them down and we look back at the teeny tiny life using our microscopes to be able to see what they're doing. Speaking of which, there's Marisol there in that photo and all of my other teammates. So it takes a lot of people to make this work happen, right? I'm down there scuba diving, talking to people on the surface. It takes people making sure that my air is going down to me, talking to me, making sure we're reaching the science goals, and also people handling the line and the umbilical to make sure I get back. So science takes teamwork in so many different ways, and I'm really excited to introduce my team to you because they're standing right here by the door and they really want to say hi. So I'm going to invite them out really quick so you can say hi to my whole team. Team, would you like to come say hi? Yeah.
Team.
All right, here they come.
Hello, team.
They're coming. They're coming. You can't see yourself. It's just the presentation, but
okay. Hi.
You can introduce yourself.
Oh, hi. I'm Taylor. I'm the field coordinator out here at Lake Fryxell. So I live out here all season. And then whenever science teams come through, I help like set up, tear down, order food, supplies, chef it up, and things like that so that these guys can do more science throughout the day.
Yeah, Taylor.
Fantastic.
Hello, I'm Elisa. I'm from Germany. I am a scientist and also one of the scientific divers.
Hi, my name is Marisol. I'm a geobiologist from New Mexico, and I'm one of the scientists that the divers collect samples for.
So tell us
Oh.
what your one thing that you need in Antarctica that you can't live without that you brought from back home was.
I have 4 bags of hot Cheetos with me.
Flaming hot Cheetos!
Hello, I'm Tyler. I'm a scientist here and also one of the divers, actually wearing the same orange coat in the photo back there. So, true on brand.
Hi, I'm Dawn, and I am the team leader. I'm from UC Davis, and I'm a geobiologist, and I'm so happy you get to hear from Abby on this story.
Thanks, everybody. We got such an awesome team out here, and I want to open it up now for any questions that you have for myself or my teammates. Before I do, here's a quick thank you slide to everyone that has helped us get here and everyone that makes this trip happen. Here we go. I'm going to pop out of this slide and
We're back.
maybe come back in. You can see us.
Amazing.
You guys can come up.
Abby, well, thank you so much for such an incredible journey. Before we dive in with our Kahoot and our questions, we've got a request from a class to do a 360 if you're able to show us the whole area around you.
Okay. Here we go. All right. Here is, you want to go in the hut real quick?
Sure.
We're going to go in the hut. Here's our table my team was just eating breakfast at. And here are the desks we do all our science at, make graphs, analyze data, things like that. And then, excuse me. And then these are the lab facilities, right here. And this green door, green door, that's the bathroom. That's the one with the foam seat that I showed you a picture of. And here's our 360 view.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Abby. That's awesome. Well, folks, we're going to dive in with a Kahoot first. 2 quick minutes, 4 quick questions, test your understanding, have a little bit of fun. And then we're going to dive in with a little bit of an elongated Q&A. And as I've said already, if you have extra questions after the broadcast is done, please email them to us at exploringbytheseatofyourpants, and we will get you all those answers after the show. For those who are new to Kahoot, the faster you answer, the more points you get. And what you win is the entire Antarctic team's everlasting respect, which is pretty awesome. So like a whole bunch of people in Antarctica are going to respect you forever if you win this Kahoot, and we're paying attention to Abby. So we are going to get started. And then our live classes, YouTube classes, there's already a bunch of questions in. We'll try and dive in with Mr. White's class first, if you guys can stick around for a few minutes, and we'll go from there. Question 1. If it's December and you're somewhere where the sun never goes down, are you in the Antarctic or Arctic Circle? We talked about the sun. It's winter up here in North America, and in Antarctica, it's winter too. Is it summer? What is it? What's going on? What's the weather? What's it like outside with Abby right now? That could be your hint. Is it dark or is it light right now? There's your clue. Let's see what we got. All right, one more second for you answers. Ooh, the Antarctic Circle is correct. Way to go. We're in Antarctica. That's what we're featuring today. Let's see what that does. Carrying Ibex has our lead. Okay, we'll go to question 2 together. Abby has to worry about polar bears. Her and the team, they're all standing outside right now. Could a polar bear come up behind them and say an unexpected hello? I hope not. That would be really shocking. That would be a big scientific discovery if a random polar bear appeared in the back of this broadcast. But our answer earlier was no. Yes, penguins in Antarctica, polar bears in the Arctic. Very good. Most of you got this right. Carrying Ibex keeps our lead. Question 3. All right. Multi-select. So there's more than one right answer to this. Antarctica is the what place on Earth? Choose all that apply. Is it the highest place, the driest place, the coldest place, the windiest place, or like 2 or 3 or even 4 of all of those? What do we think? 8 more seconds to go. It doesn't, you guys are making it look pretty warm out there. You've got coats, but there's no howling gale. I don't know. It is all of them. A lot of you, almost no one picked highest, but highest is correct. Antarctica is like a lot of mountain ranges. It's wild. That completely changes our leaderboard. Going into our final question, and then Mr. White, we're coming to you. In the remote and challenging places Abby dives, there are no living things. True or false? Now, we featured a lot of samples. We learned about them together. Shrek's house and the cheese gone wrong. All of it. You guys were the best, most descriptive group of all time. Let's see what our answer is. And then our leaderboard, 5 more seconds. And then we're heading to Mr. White's class. YouTubers chair 2. Falls, there's lots of life. 9 of you were mistaken. We are teeming with life in Antarctica in all sorts of ways. If you crack open rocks in the dry valleys, you can find lichen. It's madness out there on the ice. All right, Hero Panther second. First, for everlasting respect from Antarctica, is carrying ibex, almost wire to wire. Well done, guys. Thank you for playing along with that. And as I said, we are going to dive into questions. So, bravo, bravo. Mr. White's class, before you go, hello, 7th graders. Do you have a question for us? I know you're running away. Come on in if you got one for us before you leave. Oh, or to say bye. That's okay. Have a wonderful day, guys. And we'll take some questions from online. So our Bronxville Elementary crew, Abby, they wanted to know, they saw the picture of you all in the plane with masks. Why do you wear masks on the plane?
You want to answer that?
We didn't have to because we didn't fly with the Kiwis.
Yeah, so well, we wear masks on the plane for 2 reasons. One reason is because just like we wore during COVID, it helps prevent the spread of illness, and so it's really hard to heal on the ice. So if you come down and you're sick, you have a really bummer of a time, and then you can get lots of other people sick, just like in your school classroom. So we wear masks to protect ourselves. Also, the air is really, really dry in Antarctica and on the plains, and so it kind of doubles as making sure that you can keep some moisture in your respiratory system so that it's more comfortable to breathe.
Fantastic answer. Thanks, Abby. All right, Miss Coburn's class, they're joining us at elementary school crew in Dalewood and Hamilton, Ontario. Come on in and take us away. Hi, Miss Coburn.
Hi, so I have a remote class. They work from home, but they're grades 7 and 8. We have 2 questions. So one is, that's our school bell. So one is, when is the best time to dive? And the other one is, how far can someone sometimes see when diving in the waters? Like, how far away can you see?
Tyler's gonna answer
Sure.
that one.
Hello. So it's more comfortable for the people who are on the surface helping us dive. Underwater, it's pretty much the same all the time. So we're having the easy job there. As far as how far you can see, it really depends on where you are. If you're in the ocean here, you can see for hundreds of feet at some times of year because the water is so clear. In this lake, in the shallow areas, it's pretty clear, but there are areas that we're working down deeper where it gets really murky from the changes in the life that's there and the chemistry of the water. And sometimes you can only see that far away from yourself, which makes working there a lot more challenging. So it depends.
Thanks, man. But the far visibility is very cool. We've heard this from the Arctic as well. You have this in Iceland. Like a lot of places where the water is fed by ice, it can be incredibly, unbelievably clear for people that are used to murky waters like I was growing up in Toronto. So great question, Miss Coburn. All right, let's head to Miss Quirks' crew. When did you start diving, Abby? How long have you been at this?
I started diving when I was 19 years old, which was 8 years ago now. So I've spent a lot of time perfecting my skills, and I'm still learning and still taking classes and still getting better. But yeah, it took a long time. Also, I don't know if you caught, but we have 2 other divers here, Tyler and Eliza. Do you want to share how long you've been diving for?
I started diving in 2010. Yep.
Cool. And I also started when I was 19. I don't remember what year that was. 2005? Yeah, that sounds about right.
Oh, fantastic, guys. I want to note for our kids, if you get the opportunity to dive like our dive team in Antarctica, what a special and unique opportunity on this planet. But you can start diving at 8 years old. Patty Bubble Maker is the program you can do when you're 8. So way younger than our divers down there in Antarctica. And if you start then, maybe, who knows where your career might lead. You could end up with a really cool gig like our team today. So that's fantastic, everyone. Mr. White, you're at the camera, so I'm going to come to you if you have a question for us. Unmute and share away. Hey, man.
Oh, you're sweet, Jesse. I just wanted to comment on the quality of the presentation today. You guys have outdone yourselves, and just having the live feed makes the experience so authentic for my students. And we just want to thank you for your time and just your energy that you brought today. Sorry, my guys were dismissed there right at the end, but very well done. Thank you so much, team.
Thank you so much, Mr. White. That's so nice. And I want to stress, if you've got extra questions for us, share them with us after the broadcast. We'd love to take any and all that you might have. We've had a few people highlight how great this program is and how fantastic Abby, you and the whole crew are. So thank you guys for a lot of fun. We're going to take just 2 more questions before we wrap up and say farewell, everyone. But let's take one from our online crew. Bronxville Elementary wants to know, how far out from the hole can you explore? When you go down there and you start going, is there a limit to how far you can swim?
Yeah, what is it? Yeah, there is a limit for how far they can go. There's that cord that brings the air and provides the communication, and the divers can't go longer than that. So I think it's about 75 yards or maybe 50 yards, something like that. They usually don't go that far though, because the line can also get tangled up. And so one of the things I do on the surface is I keep the line from getting tangled up and make sure that the divers know where the hole is. They can follow the line back to it.
As always, with epic voyages to cool places where it's hard to get people out, safety first, second, third. So I'm so glad there's someone like you making sure that Abby and the rest of the dive team are hunky-dory when they're underwater. Great question, guys. All right, we're going to take one more question and then we'll do a big thank you and farewell. Miss Riddle's class wanted to know, can you touch the samples? What did they feel like? You showed us this weird slimy lasagna. What's going on? Tell us more.
You can touch the samples. One of the things that I do when divers bring samples up is I take them to the lab and I dissect them, and they feel kind of spongy. You can pick at them and they pull a little bit. They're cohesive, and some of them are not. Some of them just break down in your hands.
You guys
One of the things Abby did to help train the divers was make some Jell-O to practice with the diving. So when next time you eat Jell-O, you can think about your Antarctic samples. Yep.
I am going to go make some Jell-O right now and do just that and say that I'm exploring the inner realm. Okay, that's what we'll do. Guys, team, you are spectacular. Thank you more than you know for all of this. The kids have loved it. It's the end of the school day for a lot of our classes. So before we say goodbye and farewell, and please do stick around with me when we're done live, is there any last message you want to share with all our classrooms around the world today?
Yes, there are so many ways you can get to Antarctica. You can come as a scientist, you can come as a diver, you can come as a helicopter pilot, a chef, somebody that specializes in recycling waste. There are so many different jobs here. So any of your skill sets that you have, there is space for it in Antarctica. So I hope you get to make it down here one day if that's your goal.
No better message than that. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, team. Good morning. Enjoy the 9th. We're still on the 8th, so we've got a few more hours to catch up to you as it is. But we'll end with a little farewell for everyone. Bye, guys, for now, and we'll see you all soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye.
Farewell.